All right, well, welcome everybody. So the roundtable we have set up is to discuss communicating with students. This came out of a task force, I think, that was coming through registration to just look at issues surrounding student communication and why are students maybe not getting certain information? Is there better ways to communicate with them? And we thought, as faculty, we struggle with that same thing of feeling like we've uh, given directions, instructions, and some students aren't getting it. So I thought it'd be nice to share what people do, and especially our uh, roundtable participants have been using D2L and teaching online for a little while. So real quickly, I'll just go around and let everyone introduce themselves. I'll start with Suha.
Hey everybody, my name is Suha. I'm from the Communication Humanities Department. I teach speech as well as mass communication, so communication courses, and I'm happy to be here with everybody.
Thanks. Kimberly?
Was that me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Marks. I work with Allied Health. I'm the Rad Tech Clinical Coordinator and the MRI Program Coordinator. So I'm lucky enough to have my students for 4 semesters in a row, or longer. I guess in the Rad Tech program, that's more. So yeah, we know our students and we try to communicate with them continually.
Okay, great. And then Pat?
Hello, everyone. I'm Patrick Dean. I chair the Department of Legal Studies. My colleague, Becky Walters, is on the line with us. And we do business law, paralegal, court reporting, but that's more Latrice Cook, and criminal justice.
Hi, great. And I'm Jamie Welling. I teach in the biology department and online, and also do faculty technology training. So this is why I get roped into some of these stuff. And unfortunately, we have a lot of my colleagues that are willing to come along and help me out. So I appreciate that. So what I want to do is I have some questions I had sent out to the panelists, and just to kind of get the conversation going as we go through. If those in attendance have a question about something, let us know. You can use the chat. I believe there's a chat feature to write any questions you have. So we'll start with one of the first questions I put was, how has communicating with your students changed since the start of the pandemic? And kind of just let whoever would like to kind of answer first. Feel free. Suha?
I taught online classes. I was teaching online classes before COVID hit, and comparing what the experience was like for students before and after, it was a big difference, because most of the students that were signing up for online courses, for example, before COVID, they kind of had a good idea of what to expect in terms of online expectations, right, for the course. Whereas after COVID, I think a lot of our students were pushed into this online environment, and not all of them, but a lot of them were, and they did not know what to expect. So there was this level of urgency to maintain an open line of communication with instructors. At least that's what I've seen, right, on my behalf. Coming from that kind of space of after COVID, some people that found themselves taking online courses, virtual courses that they may not have been very prepared for. I think open lines of communication just became much more important to maintain. And that's a big difference that I've noticed. Yeah, I could.
Yeah. Okay, great. Anyone else? One of the things I wonder is so I guess with and Suha, you kind of touched on this, but with students that traditionally would have been face-to-face, have you found it's harder for them to, it's harder to communicate with those students than your students are traditionally online?
Is it harder for in person?
To reach those students, do they seem to struggle more with understanding instructions?
When we had our in-person classes, it was we went over everything in class. Everyone was present, obviously. So I think it was easier, maybe on their part. I think that just, with online courses after COVID, it was, I'm using emails, I'm using D2L announcements. I have an email policy outlined in my syllabus, and it's to set the tone. I think setting the tone is important. So in my syllabus, I make sure that they know that they're only supposed to use their SSC email, no other email such as Yahoo, Gmail, anything like that. I also let them know that once you email me, you should receive a response within 24 to 48 hours, always, unless something's wrong with me, right? But yeah, 24 to 48 hours is the baseline. I also include I let them know what they should include in the subject line. For example, of that email, just write down speech 108 and your section number, because if I have multiple section numbers, I need to know which section you're coming from. So I also have them add the section number. I'm trying to remember anything else. I also have in the syllabus that they should add their first name and last name at the end of the email, because it's not uncommon for me to have, three Johns. So I need to know which John you are. But I kind of outline all of that in the syllabus from the get-go, and we go over the syllabus in the beginning.
And Jamie, I think I can follow Suha on that. So in my course syllabus, I actually direct them. This is a leftover from Moodle, and it's one of the things where I think Moodle was much better than D2L in terms of email. Moodle had an inside Moodle email tool that kept everything organized for me. And I'm glad Lisa, well, I knew Lisa was going to be on there, but I do have a question for Lisa as we go through this. So I require them, I take it a step further than Suha, because I want them to use the D2L email tool to send me emails, even though I know it comes to my South Suburban College, which going back to Moodle, when they would send I called it a private mail. When they would send a private mail, it stayed inside Moodle, but the Moodle system notified me in my South Suburban email so that I could just pretty much immediately respond or close to it. And my question for Lisa is, I'll get students who will send just from their South Suburban email because they don't read the syllabus or they don't realize or whatever. So I'll ask them to, unless it's, something really an emergency or something, which usually is not, I'll ask them to resend it inside D2L. And my question for Lisa is, sometimes I get emails from students, quote unquote, inside D2L, and it labels the course, like maybe CJS 105, section 0 or section 301. And other times I think they're using the tool inside D2L and it doesn't label it. And the reason that's important to me, and I think maybe I learned something from Suha here, I guess I'm gonna have to tell them that they're gonna have to tell me their section number and their full names. Because if we teach, 6 or 7 courses and they send an email, I don't know which course they're in, especially if it's the beginning of the semester, or I haven't learned their names yet. But so my question for Lisa is, when it's not labeled, I guess the other thing before I get to my question is, then on my South Suburban email, I actually create a folder for each course because I want to know what I said to the student and what they said to me, and then I drop it into that folder. So it's my way of trying to organize it. And, I can't remember everything I say to every student in 7 sections of courses. So I like when they come to me through D2L and D2L shows me the course and the section number, but sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And Lisa, is there something I'm missing? Is there something I'm supposed to be telling my students? Because I have the instructions in my syllabus.
Hey, Pat, that's something I'm actually going to have to check into. I don't have a quick answer for you on that. If it makes a difference on like what link they click on, or if they're in your course when they hit the mail icon, I'm going to have to double check. It may be too, like if they're doing it from off of the class list versus just using the mail icon. But they'll have to try it out and see if we can come up with an answer for that.
Well, I think you should volunteer Jamie for a task force. Chair that task force and let him figure this out.
Well, right now I'm probably going to volunteer Noah.
Good.
Because
Close enough.
he might be able to take a look at that for us now while we're on this call. So I know you're on here, Noah. Thank you for taking a look at that.
But the
Sure.
just to finish that out, that's been a big change. Not so much COVID, to follow Suha again. My online students, prior COVID, they get it. They signed up for an online course. So they know what they're getting themselves into. What I would call my offline students who got dropped into the synchronous learning model, where I would have been in room 4460 with them, not so much. And it's not their fault. They didn't sign up to talk to me over the internet. They signed up to talk to me in classroom. And hopefully in fall, we'll be doing that again. Those students have been a little tougher to, bring along technology-wise. Then I'm done.
Kim, did you have anything to want to add?
I'm the complete opposite, apparently. Again, my students are in cohorts that I have over the course of years. So at the very beginning, I asked them, what email address do you want me to use? And I'm kind of hoping they give me their private email address, because when they leave me, they're going to ask me to be a reference for a job or another scholarship, and I want to know who's emailing me. So usually we operate, I give them my SSC email, but usually they operate outside of SSC email. And then I use Google Voice. I don't know if anybody else is a Google Voice fan. I don't give out my home phone number anymore. That was an error I made my first year. I'll never do that again. So I also collect everybody's phone number, and the students and I have a group SMS chat that we can get in touch with each other within 10 minutes. Like, they're super responsive to chat. And I'm really happy that we've done that, because they also use that chat group without me. That's one thing that we missed because of COVID. Usually these cohorts of students grow very close together, right? They're starting their careers together. And that sense of community kind of fizzled out a lot when COVID hit. So having those things where they can do stuff and chat back and forth without me has been really great. My students have a club, and we've not had any club activities, right? Because we haven't had bake sales. We haven't been able to do anything like a group that we normally do. So creating some kind of community for these guys has been tough. Like, I still keep in touch with my X-ray chums that I went to school through, with. So not having that opportunity for the students to have some kind of social life together, that was a big deal. And hopefully we've been able to create some of that.
Yeah, that's it's a wonderful, I think, wonderful example of, education is not one size fits all, and very different situations when you're dealing with a cohort of students you see often versus many of us who have students for that one class, an intro-level class. And looks like there's a question from Adrian Reeves. Adrian, what was your question?
I just wanted to add that I also use the Remind app at orientation, or when students start a cohort. I label them per cohort, and then it's a great way to make announcements as well as have students contact you. Like if I get an offer or for a job fair or something like that, I post it there. And actually students have attended and found jobs that way. So it's a great tool as well, and it's free.
Thank you for sharing, Adrian.
Yeah, that's great. And that brings up a question. There's two things you guys kind of led right into, so it's perfect. So one was just, first is really, what tools do you use to communicate with students? And so here we had a couple of examples of, using student email. There's always that lifelong debate, I think, about student email versus personal emails. I know some instructors that flatly refuse to respond to emails that come from a non-SSC email account. And so that can be hard because students are living in their own world. Any other methods within, say, D2L that you might use, or like Adrian, any things outside of D2L that you might use to keep in touch with students during the semester?
I use a lot of the D2L automation. So like if a student, I'm testing this one out. We'll see how it goes. If a student doesn't turn in an assignment on the assignment date, you can make a automated message that sends to that student to complete their work. And then I do use announcements. If your student subscribes to announcements, then they'll get an email every week of what that announcement is. I think that's nice too. It keeps them, like Monday morning, it tells them, okay, this week, this is what we're doing. These are the assignments that are due. You know, I think that's good too.
Yeah, I do that as well. Go ahead, Patrick.
I'm sorry. So just following Kimberly, and don't get me wrong, I like D2L. I'm nitpicking today on just these little things. If I had to choose D2L over Moodle, I would choose D2L. So just keep that in mind. But
yeah, me too.
Again, in Moodle, when I made an announcement or whatever they called it, an email was sent to the students. I find myself, I like the announcements tool. I don't think students use it. I think very students enroll to be notified. That whole notification system where the student has to be proactive, first of all, I don't think they know it's there. And maybe that's something we need to help them with, that they can enroll in this thing. But I find myself, whatever announcement I make, I just simply email it. I use the D2L email tool through the class list, and I just copy and paste it and email it to the students. So they're getting it 2 different ways, so they don't miss it. And that I think that's working. I'm not positive. I haven't heard any complaints. I think that one is working. So I would like to see the announcements somehow. You can tell your students, you better check your announcements because that's where I'm going to talk to the class. But with what Kimberly, with what you're doing, that sounds like law school to me in terms of we all went through together and we all know each other and lifelong friends. Whereas you're teaching CJS 101 and business law 101, 201, you may have these students one time and then they go on and take Jamie from biology and an English course. So, I mean, the cohort thing is great. But I haven't heard any complaints when I email the students through the D2L tool, just a copy of the announcement. So I figure it's 2 different ways.
Okay, good.
Hey, Jamie.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Noah,
No.
how you guys doing?
Hey, Noah.
I was talking to Lisa about this earlier. As far as Patrick was talking about the announcements, I just kind of wanted to let you guys know that I'm sure if you don't know it already, that within D2L, within the announcements, you can actually, record an audio and video announcement and have that on your front page. So maybe that's a tool the instructors can use to remind students to subscribe to those announcements so that they know exactly where to go. I think it's a very useful tool, and it's very easy to do. It'll let you record up to, I don't know how long, but usually your announcements can't be longer than 2 minutes, and that should keep the students' interest in a simple announcement, just to kind of remember and remind them. I don't have a D2L Windows box open right now because I'm actually working on another problem with an email. But we were talking about it earlier, and I just thought I'd suggest that out there, because then on your front page, the students right away see the teacher or the instructor, yourselves, and they're able to get some verbiage where they're not they don't have to read. Because I understand the students sometimes attention span is not always where it needs to be as far as what might you be announcing. I don't know. I don't teach a class, so I don't know I don't interact with students that way. So but I just thought it would be kind of a useful tool in case you guys wanted to use it.
Hey, Noah, try this on for size. I know you and Lisa and that whole department have made videos for students, general videos. Would it be possible to produce a video where we could give the link and you guys would give them the instructions on how to enroll in the announcements and what they should click in those boxes?
Sure.
And I'd set right on the front of my course.
Okay.
And then I honestly don't, I'm pretty positive the students don't realize they have to initiate that process.
Initiate this. I gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I can, I'll write that down, Mr. Dean, and we'll work on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that kind of effort, that would certainly be something, I think across the college, I think we've talked about on distance learning about providing snippets of things to put in the syllabus, like Suha was talking about things in her syllabus about, I will respond in 24 hours. And there are common things that I think a lot of online instructors know to put in that might be helpful for everyone to put in, and they could just cut and paste it in. Some little tutorial videos like that. It kind of like what Kim has done with her class, like those kind of videos would be, nice resources that faculty could use. So yeah, certainly something we should follow up on. Adrian, I think, had another question.
I also wanted to add, I don't know if anybody mentioned it, but there is an app for D2L, and I downloaded it on my phone, and like when I made an announcement to my students yesterday, it alerted me on my phone that an announcement was made. So I mean, that's something too to consider. It's called Pulse when it's on the phone. And I almost forgot I had it. And I'm like, what is this? And it said one announcement has been made. And like when you guys make announcements, I get an alert.
Thank you, Adrian. I didn't know about that. I'm gonna check that out. You learn something new every day. I didn't know that we had that feature.
And I think, Lisa, that it's on the main college landing page of D2L. I think at the bottom. Do you guys still have the link there about Pulse?
We do. There is an announcement on the main page of our environment that talks about the Pulse app, and that gives the student access to their calendar. They can get into the virtual classroom from there. They can check grades. If they are working off of a mobile device, the experience might be a little more seamless for them. But the notifications is a great feature. If your instructor, posts something to the course, you are notified, and I'm a big fan of the Pulse app. I think it's very useful for students and instructors alike.
And I too have to look into it more because, like Adrian, I have it. I do get, whenever I post an announcement, my phone dings, and now I realize it's because I just posted an announcement. But I also see notifications about due dates. So I need to look more into, again, do students need to subscribe to that and so on? Because yes, in this case, it maybe we need to educate students what we want them to be subscribed to, what will be best for them to get the information.
I think with the Pulse app, that's by default.
Okay.
Because you've downloaded the app, you're engaging in that process. But I believe all of that is by default with the Pulse app.
Good.
Lisa, and I would say post-COVID, because sooner or later we're going to be done with this nonsense, but a tutorial on how to use D2L email, another tutorial on how to sign up for the announcements and the notification features, because that just triggered another thing in that whole laundry list of what they can choose. It's more than announcements. There can be assignment dates, test dates, that kind of stuff. So just general videos that we can just provide the link to the student. They don't have to be really complicated, 3-4 minute video. I think that would go a long way in terms of integrating D2L into the delivery of our courses.
Hey, Patrick, we did share several videos on the Where's My Course page on the college's website, which is kind of where we've been directing students to get started with D2L. And there may actually already be something there that you might find useful, but we did go through a lot of the pre-produced materials from D2L and provided links for students to help them get started.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Do you think D2L has produced a email tutorial? You have any idea? Or announcement tutorial?
It is very possible.
I agree.
It's something that we'll have to take a look at. It wouldn't be, personalized to our site, but the tool is the tool. And so it's just, finding the right materials that may already be out there.
Yeah, and that is something I've spent a little time trying to go through. If you go to help in D2L in our instance and go to video tutorials, that takes you to the D2L YouTube channel, and they have all kinds of videos, student, instructor based. I've tried to take time to go through some of those and pull out like, oh, here's a little 2-minute video I think would be useful. so that saves us all from having to scour their YouTube channel for the right video. But I would suggest anyone who's interested, go and check that out. And if you find a useful video, feel free to share it with Lisa and me and her group, because they're out there. A lot of that stuff is out there. It's just, a needle in a haystack trying to find it. Another question. So we talked about, some of the tools to use. Another question I had was, before classes start, what sorts of communication do you communicate with students prior to the start of classes, and what are some of the tools that you use to do that?
I could touch on that.
Okay.
So I know that officially, we're not required to reach out to students before the actual semester begins, but I am a firm believer of reaching out, because so I'll have my Brightspace, my D2L page all set up at least a week before, prior to when the course actually starts. I'll also post announcements and send emails at least 4 to 5 days before the course starts, so they have a good idea of what they're getting themselves into. So I think that's really important, and I think that I've had many of students for the summer semester. Has it come? It's around the corner. I've had 3-4 students contact me about summer, and I think it's important that we have that open line of communication. I know it's not. We might not be officially required. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa. But because the semester hasn't officially started yet, but I think that it just helps them. It just paves the way for the course, and it eases their kind of. A lot of them are nervous, right, with these online, especially with students that have been kind of pushed into this environment and maybe haven't taken online courses before. I think it just eases their mind, and it just helps them kind of ease into the course. Over.
Great.
One of the things that I did years ago, and I'm really glad I did it, is I used to have it on the college's web server, but I actually have my syllabi for my courses, and now I had my kid help me. But so I have this URL, Professor Dean with an E at the end of my name, professordean.com, and each of my course outlines are there. Mm-hmm. And I say, if you're interested in this course, future courses will be set up pretty much like past courses, because that's what we do. And what that did for me, and I'm talking 10 years ago now, it cut down my voicemail messages by over 90%. Because quite often they were looking for the text, or they were looking for what is the course, beyond what they can read in the course description. And so, if you're going to take it in the spring and then you're going to take it in the fall, the course itself, it doesn't change a lot. The students change, but, I update my course, of course. But that has really worked well for me, really well.
I agree. I've had the same experience. It just saves a lot of emails, just back and forth. It's just setting the tone, and I think a big part of it is just really setting the tone.
And I guess I should follow in my outgoing voicemail message at the college telephone. Remember those? So in my outgoing voicemail message, I say, if you have questions, go to professordean.com, and that information's there. And then there might be a link back to the D2L site for the college. I can't remember, but that has worked well for me.
And Pat, can you say what you use for the web hosting? It's Google, right? I think.
Yes, this all changed. I used to just do it on a piece of the college's server, but that got changed. So, yeah, I think it is a Google site. If you bring it up, you might know, but I'm pretty sure it's a Google site. It is a Google site. No,
yeah, I thought it was, because I can tell you I've wanted to do the same thing. I haven't done the same thing, but I love the idea of that. And I believe what you use is Google, so it's kind of free and like Google Docs and things, pretty relatively user friendly, which is a nice, because we're not looking to design a major web page or anything. But
no, my son works for the Lockport School District, and he's a Google guy. So since he helped me, I know it's Google.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Lisa. Just one more thing to kind of piggyback on what Pat is saying. If you create a page like that and how Pat has tagged it onto his voicemail, it's also possible for you to put it on an out of office response in your Outlook. So people only get your out of office like the first time they hit it. that page, right? So if you receive an email from a student on the outside, the same kind of direction you give them in the voicemail, you could actually put that in the out of office, they would get that and they would get that link. And that might actually even save you a couple more emails by directing the students there. Just something else to add.
And also, Lisa, with that, and maybe Pat does have this, would you be able to have a link that would be to your the personnel page on the college that would link to your personal site?
Yeah, we can do that too, like your profile page. If you want a link to that on the college's website, we can certainly do that as well.
And I guess, so I bring up the prior to the start of class, and Suha, you make a very good point about, really, technically classes start, that first day, and that's by contract. That's your first day of work. And but I agree with you that reaching out to students, or at least letting them know how to get access. And I think, and Lisa can maybe speak more to this, but I know that has been one of the challenges in COVID is these students who are not your traditional online students, not really knowing what to do to start the semester. And it's a struggle, because some of that is students that 2 weeks in are now wondering what's going on with their course, when you kind of wonder, why didn't you email somebody the first day? But at least, I don't know if you could speak more to, some of those challenges that you guys have heard about with students just not knowing where to start and what to do with, especially virtual classes.
Sure. Sorry, my jabber was going off. What we have seen, unfortunately, is we have several shells that have no content in them. Instructors haven't put any syllabus or any kind of contact information, or if they're going to use a tool outside of Bongo, if they're using some other format or whatever. So a student logs into D2L, they get to their course shell, and then they contact us that it's broken. Are they registered for the course? What's happening? I'm confused. I don't, that has been kind of a reoccurring theme that we've seen. The other thing that we have seen are students that don't check their SSE email, and that creates a lot of confusion. So some of the instructors I've talked to that haven't posted content in their course is like, well, I've emailed the students, but the students aren't checking their SSE email. Or I had one student that I spoke with. She's like, I keep emailing my instructor, but she never emails me back. And I asked her how she was emailing her instructor. She was clicking on the link in D2L and sending the email to the instructor. So it was going to the instructor's SSE email, but the student never logged in to check her email. So she thought it was going to go back to her Gmail or her Yahoo or whatever, not realizing it was actually coming from her student email address, and that's where it was going. And she couldn't understand why the instructor wasn't getting back to her. So once we logged into her student email, there was 30 messages with all of the answers for the things that she was looking for. So we have seen that be a challenge as well, is that students that don't check their college email, so they're missing correspondence from instructors, from registration, from financial aid, and those sorts of things. And then not having any content in the course to tell the student, even if you're not going to use all the tools in D2L, just giving them some direction as to this is how this course is going to flow. At least doing a single post with that information that you've emailed to the student, so when they get there and they haven't checked their email, they know what to do and where to go. So those have been two big things that we've seen happen both in the fall and in the spring, and it's not been unique to D2L. We saw the same thing in Moodle as we switched with COVID. When we went to shells for everybody, that we began to see that be a much bigger problem.
So Lisa, percentage-wise, what percent of total courses are you running into that problem?
Pat, I have to be honest. Like, I don't go look at a course unless there's a reason. Like, if a student calls and they're trying to figure out, like, I don't know what's happening, and this is broken and whatever, that would cause me to go look at your course. Otherwise, I don't go and look. So I know we have some folks that they communicate with their students a lot, and they call them and they email them, and they never post anything to D2L, and I never hear about it because they were able to connect with the student. And then I have other folks that don't. They send out an email. The student may have registered late. They never got the email because they registered late, and then now they're into week 2 of the class and they have no idea what's going on. So I don't want to give you a number on that, but it's enough that it's enough that it stays on my radar that we get that call. Like the first couple of weeks of school, we get enough emails and phone calls, even this week, like with late start classes. Yeah. We had a virtual class that was supposed to start at 3 o'clock, and at that like all afternoon, but particularly from like 2 to 2:30, we had gotten 3 or 4 calls from students that there was something wrong with their course and wanting to verify their registration. You went there was no content in it. Now that one was early enough. I was able to reach out to the department and be like, hey, you're about to have a real problem. No content was posted here. The students don't know how to connect for their 3 o'clock session.
And then going, and fair enough. So it's more than a one-off deal.
It's more than one. It's more than one. And I would say it's more, we have full-timers, but I probably see it more often with adjuncts. Right. Or like I said, the full-timers are more proactive in their communication, and it doesn't get, my attention isn't drawn to it, as often. But we do have full-timers that are doing it too, but they're not folks that would normally be teaching in a full online environment.
So then going completely opposite of that and back to Suha, my understanding is with D2L, like Suha might have her class ready to go a week before the official start date. She can open that class, correct? I mean, the students can see the class, or do we have to wait for the official semester start date?
It's 24 hours, right?
You can open it. No, the instructor can change the date. Now, by default, the automation will open it 24 hours in advance, right? And the class will stay open 7 days after it closes. But you can go in and adjust those dates. So if you want to open your class like a week early, you can go in and you can make that change. Now, I will tell you, it is possible, like if we had to do if we had some sort of technical issue and we had to do like a big batch, like push, it might override a customization you've done. If you've customized your dates, it might override that. That potential is there, but it is possible. I'm hoping we don't have to do that anymore, but it is possible for the instructor to open the class sooner or keep it open a little longer if that's what they want to do.
I think you go to course tools and there's a tab that says course offering, something like that.
Yeah,
click on that.
Yeah, it's on that course offerings page.
And you can match the dates to there.
If we don't touch that, then the D2L section opens 24 hours in advance?
Before the class starts. So if the class starts on a Tuesday, it's not going to open till Monday. If the class starts on a Monday, it's going to open on Sunday. If the class is a Thursday class, it doesn't open till Wednesday, which is a little bit different than what we had with Moodle. With Moodle, we were manually opening those things. So we just opened them all on Sunday night. Not to have to go back and touch every record over and over and try to figure out the start times. But now there's an automated process that takes care of that for us.
Right. Well, so we're getting close to the end of time. Before we kind of wrap up, are there any questions that anybody, any attendees have that they want to ask the panel members?
I have a question for you guys. So I don't know about you, but my office hours are usually, I have student drop-ins like all the time. How did you guys work around making sure your students could have one-on-one time with you?
Easier for me, I'll just kind of step in because I serve at the writing center, I serve at the reading.
Oh no, I think we lost her.
Okay, I wasn't sure that was
there she is. She's back.
So anytime my students want access, more unfortunate, like I have many, they have access to me everywhere. I'm available, but at my office hours, like usually I just ask them to make a, and but most of the time they'll just come see either the teaching center, reading center, or the writing center. Over. I hope that helps.
You're cutting in.
We're a little bit broken up on that one.
I'm sorry.
That's no. I can answer that too. That for me, for office hours, I still have a Zoom link that I use for that, and I just set it up with the waiting room. So a student comes in the waiting room, I can then control who comes in. The downside to that is sometimes, as you know, office hours are quite lonely most of the time, and it's true virtually as well. So if I walk away from the computer, the problem is I won't see that someone's logged in. So I generally try to find some work, and I keep my participant window open on the side, so if someone comes in, I see it. But that's kind of how I've done it. But I think I would love to have the problem of two people wanting to talk to me at the same time. That just hasn't happened yet. It might just be me, but
no, it's not you. It's the difference of what we teach. And if you want me, if you got an hour and a half, I'll talk about office hours. So office hours are 1998. They really are. Our students don't talk to us in office hours. They want instantaneous responses. And I have found, and I learned this one by the school of hard knocks, is, I'm not there 24 hours a day. I get that, but I'm pretty responsive to student emails, and they appreciate it. And so I kind of tier it. If we can solve it via email, fine. And then if not, I'll do a phone call or I'll do a Zoom call. Generally speaking, it can be done by email. Because I'm like you, Jamie, even without the COVID, the people who stop in my office are you, GA. So maybe a student twice a year if I'm lucky. And maybe that's because I am responsive electronically. They're digital beings. So I try to meet them where they.
I make them stop in at least once a semester for office hours. Like I check them off.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. I remember
a student walks up to me and says, "Hey, Professor Dean," and I honestly know their name, but I don't know them if they're my online student, but they know me because I do videos inside my course, and so they know what I look like, but I know them, but I don't know what they look like. It's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah.
I was wondering can students, this is for Lisa, hopefully she can answer this. For students, Microsoft One accounts, I understand that we have an on-prem Exchange server, and then we have Microsoft 365, and they don't talk to each other. Is there any way to integrate that calendar function, though, where a student could schedule a time with us?
I can tell you that that's something that's being looked at. That is a request that has come not just from you, Kim, and that is something that is being looked at by Dr. Williams's office as well as IT. And how do we make these things work better together? And so today, no. Do I think it'll happen this semester? Probably not. I'm not going to lie to you, but maybe by the fall. I know that, and I'm not promising that because it's not even my area. I just know that it is being looked at, and I agree that would really it would add some amazing functionality. Even when you talk about things like office hours and that sort of thing, like if you could incorporate that all into your Outlook and you didn't have to, spin up a separate Zoom session and all that kind of stuff. I think
365 is an awesome tool, and it's a bit crippled for us. So
yeah. I do agree. I agree with that.
Plus, I don't know how much we're paying for that on-prem Exchange server, but if you'd like a consultant.
You know a person, right? I know someone. No, I mean, you should, feel free to reach out to Dr. Williams, like shoot her an email about it. But it is something I know that's being looked at, and I also agree would help to just make us more productive, one less hoop to jump through. So, and I also like about it is it would tie into D2L then as well. I wouldn't have to just post, here's a link to go over and log into your student email. Your student email would actually show up in D2L in that widget.
Pretty amazing.
And that would allow a lot more functionality, like for students, and you have less reason why you couldn't check your student email or you didn't know how to log in or where to go or whatever. It would be right inside of D2L. So.
So if faculty doesn't know, Office 365 has a lot more functionality than what we use, and it does tie in with D2L. Like I have a lot of my videos on YouTube, which I hate because even though they're non-listed, if one of my students shares my lecture link with somebody else, like I have hundreds and hundreds of views for my MRI courses. That these are students that aren't students now, they're just sharing them with like their clinical instructors and stuff, which I'm not mad about, but you know, I'd like to keep that content for just my students and not for the whole world.
You're a rock star.
You monetize that, Kim. You monetize your channel.
those videos.
That's what you're missing out on.
KimberlyMarks.com.
Great. Yeah, Kim, that's a great point you make because there are definitely we're missing some things that would be great integration tools, and I think would certainly help with trying to get the communication with students. Because the email especially is the one I think we've all grappled with, telling our students to check their student emails and they still don't. Pat, I like your idea of kind of almost making them go in and do that, you know, like as part of the course, just so they get in the habit of here's how you're going to communicate with me. Because yeah, they're doing their own thing in most cases. So, well, to kind of wrap up, I guess I'll ask the panelists just lots to summarize, but what would you think is a key, maybe the most important thing you think faculty should think about in terms of communicating with their students?
Responsiveness. Responsiveness. Immediately, not immediately, but get back to them. I want them to struggle with law. I don't want them to struggle with email. Right? If we can be responsive, and I know Becky's really good at that, I try, it makes the world of difference. And we all know that retention is the elephant in the room. It always has been. So if these students get frustrated and they leave us, they don't come back. They're gone. So that if I picked one thing, I personally, I'd say responsiveness.
I could say consistency, just being consistent in responsiveness, like Pat mentioned. I think that I'm trying to sum it up real quick because I could talk for a long time. At the beginning of the semester, I always tell them, the moment you signed up for this course, you became my priority. Your success in this course is my priority. And I state that in the beginning, and I feel like that sticks because you know, if they need me, they're contacting me, and they know that they have access to me in different avenues, wherever it is, whether it's through D2L, through email, through the speaking center. They know that I'm there for them because that's our end goal. I think that's all of our end goals, I guess. Over.
Great. Kim?
I just try to keep it as simple as possible. Texting is something those students do 24 hours a day, and I do it with them now. So yeah, they know they can reach me anytime.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no other questions, I want to thank the panelists for agreeing to join us. I think, you know, we had some great ideas that were shared. Hopefully those who've been in attendance have gained some ideas out of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So is there any last comments or questions anyone has?
So this is Anita from WEI. Thank you so much
Hi.
for the invite. I believe I received that from my dean. And so we are actually here to support our students. And so one of the programs that we work with is definitely Allied Health Department. And so it's good to know in terms of how professors are actually communicating with the students, because that is a big concern. The students are saying they're not responding to emails. So part of our process before the student actually is enrolled in the class, they need to attend our orientation. We are showing them how to log into their email. And believe it or not, some of them still don't do that. So that's the first point in starting off, using that SS email account, of course, to log in. But I also know that they have it where they can link it to their personal account, which is a good thing. However, what I've recently found out is that if they do have their personal account linked in Colleague, it shows the personal account, and I'm not able to see the student's email account. So when it's time for them to log into D2L and they only have their personal account linked, we do have to refer that, I believe, to Peggy Bett, so that she can share with the student their
Hey, Anita.
Yes.
I'm sorry to jump in here. I don't think that's accurate. Forwarding your student email, it doesn't affect colleague. We can certainly have a conversation about that offline.
Okay.
But I don't think that that's actually accurate.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. So we've helped our students along the way, but then definitely what you stated in regards to the not hearing from the professor or not the professor posting anything, our students get a little nervous. It's D2L is new to everybody, and so we try to actually go through detail and walk them through it. So some of the videos that definitely have been great in regards to that, in terms of helping them, because we're here as a support. And you're right. If they get frustrated, they don't want to come back, and we definitely don't want that to happen. So thanks so
Yeah.
much for the invite and for sharing, um, the pointers that were shared today, especially the
Yeah.
post application. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's a good tool. I didn't do that. I haven't done that either.
All right. Well, thank you again, everyone, for attending. And if you do have any questions, please always reach out to SSC Online at ssc.edu, and someone from that group will answer or can forward you on to someone who can help. So thank you again, everyone, for your time. And again, thank you to Suha and Kim and Patrick for your time as well. All right. Take care,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right.